Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the On Time, On Target Morning Brief. We're investing for precision on a daily basis. Welcome to a short week. It is Tuesday. Hopefully, you had a fantastic weekend. Short week this week, so only 4 days, and then Tuesday already the volumes are low. It's kind of a tactical Monday, if you will. People are waking up slowly, and that goes with the market as well. Was in Phoenix last week. Obviously, knew that for Friday. Obviously great time, got to see some clients out there, so really good opportunity. Interviewed with in a podcast for the David Johnson show, so that is by far my most official interview that I've had for a podcast anyway. That'll be coming out here in who knows, in the next month sometime. He releases one a week. It's all veterans based and war story based, but basically really looking forward to seeing that interview get released. And I think it'll be a good exposure for both himself and myself as well. Talked a little bit about the rebranding to AcreStar Wealth once we left the war stories behind. So I think you'll enjoy it, but I will let everybody know when that is out. All right. Also got to meet a couple of people for the first time that I have worked with, but never actually met in person. So it was really cool. Thanks for taking time out of their schedules to meet with me. Today's topic, what we're going to talk about today, is a little bit of geography. I had to look this up. I would consider myself fairly well traveled, but I had to also consult the worldmap.com to figure out where El Salvador is. But exactly, I knew South America, but didn't know exactly where it was. But El Salvador has officially over the weekend adopted Bitcoin as its national currency. So that's kind of interesting, right? From the, Bitcoin's been around over 10 years. Is it a currency? Isn't it? Is it a bet? Is it like gold? Is it a store of value? What's going to happen long term? All of those different theses are out there, if you will, as to what's going to happen. Well, now it's official. Some countries that have somewhat, we would call them in U.S. a failed state, like, Nicaragua, excuse me, or some places like that, Venezuela, excuse me, have a fiat currency has run rampant. So people are using Bitcoin and cryptos as currency. But this is, to my knowledge, the first country that the prime minister / leader has said, this is going to be our official currency. They gave everybody, or their intent is to give everybody a $30 equivalent of Bitcoin. They bought 400 Bitcoins as a country. And that's how they're divvying it up. So they're actually going to use it and give it a go. So that'll be interesting. Obviously, the price point on Bitcoin being above 50,000 does not necessarily make it that useful for transacting, but obviously you can transact in decimals. And maybe there's a mini Bitcoin or something out there, a Bitcoin micro or something that can be used. But it certainly can be done. It is being done, and that's a story we will monitor closely. We will take a look at the investments, GBTC, which is the one I don't like, but it's the Bitcoin Trust that's out there. And then we'll also look at MicroStrategy, MSTR, which is the one I do like, that I'm personally invested in, and I have my more aggressive clients in taking the Bitcoin ride, if you will. Okay, that's what we've got. Our topic of the day is going to be, what is fiat currency? It's not obvious, and money can be confusing to some, but we'll kind of cover that for our question today. For our longs and shorts, again, it's low volume day. I do not anticipate taking a trade this morning, but we do have Match.com is being added to the S&P 500 on Friday. Again, that's the parent of Tinder and some of the other dating sites. It's a little bit of a conglomeration of those. So anyhow, it's up 10% on the news. That may be all it has to give. I'm not sure it can go much higher. Callaway Golf crushed earnings, but it's a Tuesday morning after a 3-day weekend, so nobody cares yet. I think it's a great story for the stock. They're up 5%, but they only have 26,000 shares in play. So we've got that pulled up. Hopefully there will be a rush of volume as the market kicks off today. On the short side, Sava, you may recognize that name. They were the ones that had the lawsuit against it, that we took a 3-hour trade that ended up being like a 15-hour trade. They're short again, more lawsuit news. So anyhow, that's all I've got. We also had the CFO resigned over the weekend of Huya, HYUA. I put it up there because the stock has not moved down yet, but it could. Generally, when CFOs walk away, In this case, she resigned, but it isn't effective until almost a year from now. So maybe that's why the stock hasn't moved, but they already have identified her replacement as well. All right, with that, that's what we've got for today. If you're catching us on replay, thank you so much for checking us out. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notifications bell. If you want to join us live, it's $25 to come into the room. You can ask questions real time. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, welcome back. Here's our lineup card for today, Tuesday, September 7th. A standard disclaimer applies. You have to do your own due diligence for acting upon anything you hear in this room. Full disclaimer information is available at ototnow.com. All right, our mission objectives: grow our money, protect our money, and live off our money. Today, we're talking about growing our money through exposure to Bitcoin. And it's part of the Bitcoin maturation process. Again, in investing, you never know how the movie is going to end with anything. But certainly, I think in this case, we're looking at, this is yet another step towards legitimacy, if you will, for Bitcoin / all of the cryptos. So it's an important piece of the puzzle. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Question today: fiat currency. Again, we'll get to that once we're done with the market open. All right, our flow will be long, short, open, short, long. We'll do a market review, headline review. Long-term investments, again, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust and MicroStrategy are the ways to play it. We'll get into short-term execution, contingencies, and academic resources are standard. All right, let's take a look at TD Ameritrade Think Pipes. You have 4 screens in front of you. This is how we're going to be set up for the day trading piece. We'll have Match and then Callaway Golf, both longs, and then Sava short. When you zoom out a little bit on where we are as a market, again, largely bouncing off the new highs. Friday was a little bit in the green. So even though you're seeing red candlesticks there, that means that even with a chart that's going up, that just means that it's gapping up and then selling off a little bit throughout the day. If you remember, way back in the day, there's a study that was done that most of the market gains are actually gaps up, not during the actual market day, which was kind of interesting, at least to me anyway. But yeah, that's why you see some red here, but the market just powering higher. When you look at zooming in even closer to the SPY and going into a 5-day chart, that's the congestion you saw basically from last week. So market's trying to go higher. Market also knows that there's tax reform coming up, and you're starting to hear some of that. And a bunch of new laws here in Texas, I think, has spooked people into thinking legislators like, oh yeah, they can create laws, like lots of them that people don't agree with. So that may be taking us into a move down. Again, it's not time to just cash out and go away, but it's time to be realistic that the market may move down on us, and that's okay. It's okay. We'll re-wicker and get ready to see what tax reform holds. All right. As far as, let's come over to CNBC.com. Here's our futures, but all barely in the red across the board. They were all green a few minutes ago. Here's Europe in the red across the board. Asia's up across the board. China exports in August beat expectations. Okay. As far as bonds, 1.36%, creeping higher, not notably higher. You're not really running. I think we still have low interest rates for a couple more years, but it's certainly creeping higher a little bit there. All right, as far as oil, $68. Gold and silver selling off a little bit, and then crypto again selling off, but again it's up above 50,000 for Bitcoin. Ethereum's been on fire. If you've been watching that story, went right up above, almost touched 3,800. Some people were predicting 5,000 by the end of the year. That's kind of a crypto prediction, right? Take something that's going well and then say, well, it must go up forever, right? Not necessarily. All right. Here's what we have for the headlines. Couple of analyst calls. I went through these. They are not all straight up calls anymore. A lot of they're straight up upgrades. There are some downgrades out there. I mean, look, J&J, Merck, Amgen. And again, it's largely because the move's been made. So we aren't really in these. We have some J&J, but largely we're in Pfizer. We are in AbbVie, which I like out there, but the Modernas, the BioNTech, all that, most of the moves have been made already there. All right, cars continue to be an issue because of the chip shortage, if you will. Let's see if that Bitcoin headline is in here. The Elizabeth Holmes, you know, I'm a big fan of her story. I used to talk about her all the time. Youngest self-made female billionaire. Obviously, she's on trial. The angle the lawyers are taking in her case is amazing to me. If you want to follow it along at all, I think it's interesting. Watch her Netflix documentary first. It's called Bad Blood, about how she made all this stuff up with her company, and then basically got so caught up in her own lie, she took it to the $1 billion level, saying stuff that just wasn't true, thinking she would figure it out by the time she got there. Obviously, that's illegal and she'll be held accountable. But anyhow, our lawyers are making an interesting claim, if you will. There it is. El Salvador bought 21 million of Bitcoin as it becomes the first country to make it a legal currency out there. That's what we're going to talk about today. So what did it do to the price of Bitcoin? It's in the red today, right? But I think it's interesting when you look at where is Bitcoin. This is GBTC and Yahoo. We don't normally look at this, but GBTC's can't. Finviz doesn't model it for whatever reason. So anyhow, it ran up big back here earlier in the year, kind of sold off. This is when Bitcoin was hitting 50,000 for the first time. Now it's back to 50,000. You can see the trust is not as high. So again, these don't move one for one. But the one we use, MicroStrategy, has been kind of on a steady climb since we got in here around 550 or so. So anyhow, we'll come back to talking more about Bitcoin after we get to the market open. So stand by, and it's about 10 seconds out. We'll get set up for that. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the On Time, On Target play of the day. Stand by for the opening bell. There we go. We are off to the races. Let me get this shared out to you correctly. There we go. Should have the appropriate screens there. 4 screens in front of you. You have the 1-minute chart on the S&P 500 all the way to the left. Then you have Match.com up 9%. Again, looking to go higher there. We have Callaway Golf is not registering, so may not be quite open yet. We'll keep an eye on that. And then Sava on the short side, SAVA, again on a continuation short, if you will, from that lawsuit. Okay. There, Callaway Golf is open. Not really anticipating trading today. All of these have flaws, right? So the problem is, let's get zoomed in here on the 1-minute chart. The problem with Match is it's already up 10%. It's not that compelling of a story. It's going in the S&P 500. Callaway is my favorite. You just don't have the volume to be able to hop in here and take advantage of it. So if you're dying to trade, you can take Callaway long. Again, I would use a 20-cent stop instead of a 30-cent stop. But we'll take a look at that in a second. If you want to go Sava short, and again, you're going to have to use 50 cents. So stop is 48.14, which is hard math to do on a Tuesday, tactical Monday, right? So that's 47.65. So you're right here going short on a 50 cent. And that, so it'd have to drop $1.50, do 46.15, which is off the bottom of the chart. So I don't really like this one either. So don't anticipate trading. There's like no volume in this Callaway Golf, which kind of sucks because I like the story. No, we can't stab in at this. Now, if Sava's short, hammerheads here. So let's take this short. So 48.30, so 47.80 is the entry point on a 50-cent stop, only because it ran up just like it did there. We'll use a 40-cent stop because it ran up so much is the only reason we're doing this. Again, this is Sava short. 47.90 is your entry point with a 40-cent stop. There's our entry point, 47.90. And again, you're covering it all the way up to 48.30, which is here. And the only reason we're taking it is because it ran up so much here. All right, with the 40-cent stop, you have a 90 down to 47.50 is your 2-hour point. Excuse me, your 1-hour point. Can't do math this morning. 50 down to 40 is 47.10 would be your 2R point, and then 40 cents off of that in my math challenge Tuesday is 46.70. Is we're looking at our exit point, and it was just there, 8 minutes ago. So that's where we are in our trade. Again, the entry point was right here at 47.90, and it's short. All right, I didn't anticipate this setting up, but it did. So we took it, and we're in it, and we're in the money. All right, I like Callaway Golf for maybe a longer term play, but I don't think you can enter it here. It does have the volume now, though, over 150,000 shares if you want it. But it's tough to go long, especially when you're seeing some red in the market. So again, we're in Sava short off of that legal continuation play from the lawsuit. Okay. All right, let's go. We're going to leave that for just a second. Now that we're in it, up in R, we're going to look at how things are going out in the big picture. K-Web up 4%. You got to like that. DD up 3%. Bob being here somewhere, 2%. So some big names there. DraftKings up a couple percent. I like that. Clickstream's been in play lately, only up 1% this morning. All right, let's take a look at what's on the downside. TQLB is a big spec name, down 15%. MicroStrategy, again, we talked about them this morning. With Bitcoin, minus 3%. Boeing down, AbbVie down. I think AbbVie is probably related to the other healthcare downgrades that are out there this morning. Looking for Pfizer in here. I expected it to be down as well. Don't see it. So a few names up, a few names down as well. So let's go back to the up names. Apple, this call is up. So Apple must be up on the day, even though I don't see it here. It was up pre-market. There it is. Barely in the green here, but hanging out in the green. Up just a little, just fractionally, if you will. Okay, when you look at the overall market, here's where we are, kind of selling off to that resistance point that we had last week, so down about a quarter point in the S&P 500. Let's check back on our trade. All right, 1R, 2R, went down to 2.5R. So again, we're going to have to let this cook for a while. Zoom in here so you can see it. So again, 48.30 is your stop up top, and 46.70 is your exit point. We'll come back to that here in a second. Okay. Let's share out a map in case you aren't I had to look it up. I don't think I showed this earlier. I had to look up where El Salvador was on the world map. So you go to world map, and it's right here, just south. So again, here's Mexico, and then just below that's in white. So it's in South America. And then when you go to zoom in, it's like, hey, what's in El Salvador that I know of? San Miguel. And probably heard of the beer. At least that's where I recognize it from. Not too many. Santa Ana. I've heard some stories, people talking about Santa Ana. But anyhow, this is El Salvador. Again, their national currency is going to Bitcoin, which is not a fiat currency, which is a first, right? So that's why we're talking about this morning. So let's talk about what is a fiat currency. Fiat currency is a government-issued currency not backed by a physical commodity such as gold or silver, but rather by the government that issued it. So really think of pretty much all of the money in the world is a fiat currency now. I don't know, there probably is something out there that's somewhere that's pegged to gold still or silver. But if you remember back in our, historically, I think it was 1971 when we left the gold standard. I believe that was Nixon that took us off the gold standard. And that's when the dollar became a fiat currency. So what are the dangers there? Well, it gives the central banks control because they can print money. So largely when you see the quantitative easing / stimulus, that scares the crap out of everybody because they think that is inflating the dollar. It really hasn't, and there's arguments that it won't, which is kind of what I believe. But if anything, it might lead to a deflationary period, which is a topic for another day. But in theory, if you print more money, you would make the existing amount of money worthless. Worth less, not worthless, but worth less. To the point that everything becomes so expensive that $1 million ain't what it used to be. If you hear people saying that all the time for retirement, Well, yeah, I mean, it's tough to, if you think we're $1 million kicks off at 5%, 50,000 a year. If you add that to most people who if they worked, decent, 50,000 or above jobs their whole career, that gets them in total. If you add it to their Social Security, again, topic for another day, plus $1 million kicking off 50,000 a year, that gives them $100,000 a year in a retirement forever, and they should be able to get by. Well, that assumes that stuff, milk doesn't cost $20 a gallon, well, or gas. If everything inflates, then obviously that number you've been potentially chasing, whatever your number is, you've been chasing for years to get to, obviously doesn't hold anymore if we have a big inflation problem. So that's why it scares the crap out of everybody. You've seen out of wars, if you remember the Germany out of their World War II, you have wheelbarrows of their currency worth basically nothing. If you remember Iraq, the Iraqi dinar, you can buy a bunch of it because it's worth nothing. So you've run into situations in the past where you do have smaller countries that largely failed governments or, losers in war, if you will, to where they have to change their money because it becomes worthless. So that's that hyperinflation case. All right. What else to talk about? Legal tender. Yes, there's the gold standard left in 1971. Full faith and credit of the U.S. government. Well, if it's not based on anything, then it's kind of based on whatever we want it to be. So, okay. Won't get into it too much. When you think of what is money? Money is a social construct. It's money because we all agree that it's money. It's not because it has inherent worth, meaning tied to a physical, gold or silver, that sort of thing. Bitcoin, is it the future? Well, I think it's a part of the future for sure. So when you look at, hey, do I invest in MicroStrategy? I think it's a no-brainer investment. Bitcoin sitting here at 50,000. Some folks are calling 500,000. I think that could be the case. Right. So I think it should be, it's aggressive, but it should be in your portfolio if you're an aggressive investor. And again, I like MSTR over GBTC. It's more of a proxy play than a pure play, but it doesn't carry a 2% fee like the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust does. And, we don't have ETFs that hold currencies, right? So that's why you don't see the best you can get is this Grayscale Bitcoin Trust if you're going to hold it outright, or just get a coin wallet and hold it that way. So, all right, that's all I've got for today. Thanks for listening in. We will see you guys back tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.